Did you know that according to a recent poll, about 26% of the average employee's day is a complete waste of time? That means about a quarter of your time and or your staff's time is a waste of both time and money. So here are 3 things that myself and my team do every day that saves us an average of 3 hours daily. Let's go.
Joining us is my man, Keala Kanae.
Obvious that he's an expert at what he does.
Now, daily habit number 1 is a principle my team and I refer to as executive communication. And I got this from my late mentor, Mark Hoverson. Executive communication, simply put, is the principle of over-communicating what is needed in advance in order to save the back and forth communication that's caused by us communicating in a hurry. You've probably experienced communication like this from your staff, from potential vendors, from customers, and so forth. It's things like, hey, I'd love to chat with you about your products. Like, what products? What specifically are you interested in? Hey, did you ever have that meeting with so-and-so last week like we talked about? Wait, the meeting with who? About what? What? I don't remember the conversation that we're referring to. Hey, I'd love to meet with you this week. Let me know some times you're available. Well, meet about what? What exactly are we supposed to meet about? Things like this. See, in the everyday grind of the hustle and bustle, when we've got lots of things happening, oftentimes we delude ourselves into thinking that we're saving time by hammering out a quick piece of communication, whether that's email, text message, Slack, what have you. But in reality, we end up costing ourselves more time on the back end because we have to go back and forth multiple times in order to make the right decision or take the right action. In order to prevent that constant back and forth, we've adapted the principle of executive communication. Here's an example of what I mean by executive communication. And this is the same example I use when training my team members on this principle as well. Let's say that you had to give somebody instructions about how to fire a handgun. They had to shoot one shot and hit the target, except this person's never fired a gun before. They're about to walk into a room where a handgun, an empty clip, and a box of bullets is laid out on a table. And the only thing else in the room is a handwritten note by you, clearly explaining how to load the clip, load the weapon, load the chamber, turn off the safety, take aim, fire, and hit a target with one shot. Imagine for a moment how much detail is going to be necessary in that note in order to get them not only to shoot the target, but also to prevent them from hurting themselves in the process. Well, that is executive communication. How can I over-communicate in advance to you everything that is necessary, answer all the potential questions in your mind so that you don't have to come back to me and ask for something in order for you to move forward, make the right decision, or take the next action? Executive communication. All right, daily habit number 2 is asynchronous communication. We're all familiar with synchronized communication. That's like when we pick up the phone, somebody else answers, and we go back and forth. Therefore, our communication is synchronized. It's happening at the same time. However, when we have synchronized communication, we assume that the other person has to prioritize what we need to talk about right now. Now, obviously, we don't know what the other person on the other end is working on. In fact, did you know that it takes, on average, over 20 minutes to get into flow state? But it takes a fraction of a second to break it. If I want the highest quality work out of my team, I've got to let them stay focused on something long enough for them to get into flow state, and then stay focused on that thing long enough to get the work done. Well, that's very difficult to make happen if you constantly have Slack messages going off, the phone ringing, text messages coming in, and so on and so forth. So we utilize asynchronous communication. It's respectful of the other person's schedule, calendar, and time, and allows them to get back to us only when they have time to do so. So as long as things aren't urgent, we don't escalate it and make it urgent by throwing out phone calls and text messages. A tool that we use often for this is a tool called Loom. It allows us to shoot short, succinct videos where we can even share our screen. That means that we can show somebody something that's happening on a website or inside of a project management platform or whatever it is, and we can fire off questions, and we can wait until they're available to answer. This allows us to move projects and tasks forward without interrupting each other's day. Asynchronous communication. Daily habit number 3 is what we call the modern meeting guidelines. By and large, meetings are a complete waste of time. Nothing gets done in a meeting. If you have 5 people on a meeting for an hour, you didn't have a 1-hour meeting, you had a 5-hour meeting. You chewed up 5 hours of lost productivity. Oftentimes people think, oh, this is a big decision. I got to get everybody on the meeting so that we can come to the right conclusion. But in actuality, studies show that the more people that you have on a meeting, the longer it takes to get to a lower quality decision. One of the things that we instituted is what we call the modern meeting guidelines. This means that when somebody is going to call for a meeting, there's a few things that are required. Number one, save for a few exceptions, if somebody is going to call a meeting, they must complete a modern meeting guideline form. This form is meant to extract everything that is necessary for us to get all the information in advance of having the meeting so we can make the meeting as short as possible. Some things that they're going to identify is, number one, is this meeting for collaboration or conflict? Meaning, is a decision necessary that must be made, and we need to bring all of the shareholders in that decision together so that we can figure out what the best decision is? Or is this a meeting around a decision that's already been made, and therefore we just have to meet to figure out how to collaborate on it, the execution of that meeting? Number two, what are all the relevant data and KPIs that are related to the meeting that we're about to have? In other words, if we're about to make a decision, we need to know what is the data and KPIs that are going to be impacted by this or that are necessary in order for us to make the right decision. They're also going to share all of the details of exactly why this decision or why this meeting must be held, all of the events that have led up to it, so on and so forth. This way, we can all read about what is necessary on that meeting in advance so that we don't spend 10, 15, 20 minutes on the call just getting everybody on the same page. Instead, you are required to come to the meeting having already read everything in the modern meeting guideline form or in the meeting request form. On top of that, one of the rules of a modern meeting is that you can only attend if you feel that you have value to offer to the conversation. If you don't feel like you have a strong point on the topic at hand, you are required not to show up to the meeting. This does a few things. One, it minimizes the amount of people on the meeting, allowing us to get to a higher quality decision faster. Two, it minimizes the amount of time spent on meetings overall. Three, it minimizes the amount of time that we spend on the meeting getting everybody on the same page. And four, it allows everybody in the organization to think twice before calling a meeting because they know of all the work that they have to put in order to request a meeting. They want to make sure that it's going to be worth everybody's time in advance. And oftentimes, this means that they figure out other ways to get things done without creating an unnecessary meeting. So listen, I hope you got value out of this video, my friend, and here comes yet another shameless plug. In case we've not met before, my name is Keala Kanae. I'm an entrepreneur that got started a few short years ago while working in a coffee shop for minimum wage, and I've gone on now to build a business that's done over $100 million in sales. I say that so that you know that everything I share on my channel comes from real world experience, things that I've learned and executed that have helped me get those results, which I share here in hopes they help you get similar results as well. So make sure you subscribe, hit that little bell notification so you get notified every week when I drop more content like this, and watch this next video in the lineup. We're going to talk more about high-level business strategies.